What's up, human beings? I am Evasive, and I just, No, it's not clickbait. My video where I made transgender people watch Jack in Jail cracked 100,000 views, so I had no choice but to make another video. This time I lured 6 non-binary people into my house with free pizza and recorded their reactions while I made them watch It's Pat. And as you might expect from looking at this poster, these non-binary people were visibly disturbed by what they witnessed. And one of them was so shocked they were completely speechless for the entire movie. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about today's sponsor, Atlas VPN. If you watch any video essays on YouTube at all, you probably know what Atlas VPN is already. It's that handy little app used by over 6 million people around the world that protects your data and stops ads, malware, and other unwanted guests from tracking your online activity. And right now, Atlas has a special summer deal where you can get 3 years worth of Atlas VPN Premium plus 3 months extra for just $1.83 a month. Plus, Atlas VPN does more than just protect your data. Let's say that you're like me and you're trying to fill in all those pesky little circles on your Letterboxd Pro account. But what are you supposed to do when the obscure animated French movie you want to watch is nowhere online and only available to stream in France? That's where Atlas VPN comes in handy. With Atlas VPN, it's easy to change your location to France and watch all the sweet, sweet French art house cinema you want. So take advantage of Atlas VPN's special summer deal and get 3 years worth of Atlas VPN Premium plus 3 months extra for just $1.83 per month. And with a 30-day money-back guarantee, you just can't go wrong here. This deal won't last long, so check out the link in the description below and grab it before it's gone. Thanks to Atlas VPN for sponsoring the video. Now let's...
A lot of people say, what's that? It's Pat. A lot of people ask, who's he or she? A ma'am or a sir, accept him or her, for whatever it might be. It's time for androgyny. Here comes Pat.
Pat Riley was a recurring character on Saturday Night Live in the early 90s, appearing on the show 13 times between 1990 and 1994. Basically, every Pat sketch goes like this. Pat goes somewhere, the other people in the scene can't tell if Pat is a man or a woman, they go out of their way to figure it out, and Pat always accidentally stops them.
While I'm cutting your hair, would you like some magazines to read? Perhaps Sports Illustrated? I have Glamour.
What about people?
Pat was played by Julia Sweeney, a woman from Spokane, Washington who worked as an accountant in Los Angeles in the 1980s. When she was 29 years old, she signed up for improv comedy classes at the Groundlings Comedy School, where she quickly became known for her original characters, including Pat. A year later, SNL creator Lorne Michaels saw her perform and offered her a spot on the show, thus delivering Pat to the American masses. As for how she came up with the character, she said, "I'd been an accountant for like 5 years, and there was one person I worked with in particular who had a lot of mannerisms like Pat. I started trying to do him. I was testing it out on my friends, and they were like, yeah, it's good, but it doesn't seem like a guy that much. Like I couldn't pull off being in drag convincingly enough. So then I thought, maybe that's the joke. I'll just have one joke in here about how we don't know if that's a man or a woman, just to sort of cover up for my lack of ability to play a guy convincingly." After the wild success of Wayne's World in 1992, the executives at SNL went on a spending spree and greenlit 4 movies in a row, which all flopped in theaters. And the biggest of these flops was It's Pat the Movie. Made on a budget of $8 million and allegedly featuring an uncredited screenwriting contribution from Quentin Tarantino, It's Pat was produced by Touchstone Pictures and distributed by Buena Vista Distribution, a company that is today known as...
You walk away, you don't hear me say, please don't, baby, don't go.
So on the weekend of August 26, 1994, Disney gave It's Pat a limited release in 3 cities to test the waters, and it made... So after 3 days, Disney pulled it from theaters and instead chose to release it straight to VHS, so it could rot in the comedy section of Blockbuster Video for the rest of the 90s. After the movie flopped, Pat kind of faded into obscurity, and Sweeney made no mention of the character ever again until 2019, when she starred in the short-lived comedy series Work in Progress on Showtime, playing a fictional version of herself trying to make amends for Pat, existing.
Your character, like Pat, was just part of my life for so long, in a pretty bad way. So it's just,
oh God.
Look, people suck, right?
I feel terrible. I didn't mean it to be mean. I think I was really naive.
We
I
all
think
were.
I was, but now I'm like, ugh.
Don't you mean?
I think you mean.
So that's the story of Pat. And now it's time to talk about the movie.
It's time for androgyny. Here comes Pat.
So this was like the peak of her career.
Yes, definitely.
And the death, probably.
I was gonna say that's sad if this was the peak.
It's weird because it seems like there were like some kind of non-binary people before that, like
No,
gender
non-binary
queer
people didn't exist until 2015.
Okay, so It's Pat, the movie, opens with a POV shot of Pat being born.
As I remember it, I started life down the road most traveled.
Here we are. Whoop.
That's how all of us got here. We were all dropped immediately out of the womb.
And after that, we get a full version of the Pat theme song.
A lot of people say, what's that? It's Pat. A man or a sir, accept him or her, for whatever it might be. It's time for androgyny. Here comes Pat.
This is my favorite Sondheim song.
Next up, we get some deep Pat lore. And by deep Pat lore, I mean one scene of Kid Pat, one scene of teenage Pat, and one scene of Pat at age 33 committing federal crimes.
Got a complaint from Mr. and Mrs. Cogan. Seems you opened a letter from their son and you told him he was gay.
That's right, I say that's life. Move on, accept.
That's federal offense, Pat.
Being gay?
Opening someone else's mail.
Pat's kind of based for committing crimes.
And then we get to meet Pat's neighbor, famous comedian Kathy Griffin. And her character in this movie is named Kathy Griffin. But it's not really her because this Kathy Griffin hosts a radio call-in life advice show, and the real Kathy Griffin is a stand-up comedian, so I'm not really sure why they named her character after her. Then Pat goes to a pharmacy, and if that looks familiar to you, that's because this scene is just recycled from a Pat sketch. Actually, there's a lot of scenes in this movie that are recycled from Pat sketches. And that's just fine, okay? It's called fan service. Look it up.
Oh.
Arigato gozaimasu, fella.
すみません。
あの人は男か女か教えてくれるか。
はい、わかりました。パットが男性が女性がと聞くのは当然です。みんな不思議だと思っている。けれどね、昨日パットと一緒に風呂屋行きました。それでね、確かです。パットは。
So after that wacky, hilarious scene, Pat barges into Kathy Griffin's apartment to just be annoying, I guess.
So did I tell you I'm unemployed?
Yeah, about 400 times.
Say, do you think you could make an announcement about it at the radio station?
Absolutely not.
All right, well, think it over. But when you do make the announcement, let me know. I want to tell my friends to tune in. They don't listen to your show normally.
I love how this movie's question is, are they a man or a woman? No, they're an asshole.
Yeah. Pat somehow gets a job as a gas inspector and falls in love with a bartender named Chris, who is also non-binary, I think.
Yeah, oh, do you know what I especially love? Our good movies.
You're kidding. I love good movies, too.
Really? Oh. You know what I hate? Our bad, boring movies.
Me too. We're so alike.
What was their name?
Chris.
I think you and I have so much in common. Chris deserves better than Pat.
So if you're anything like me, you probably want to see Pat fall down a flight of stairs at this point. Well, here you go. And since we can't have a Disney movie without a villain, here's Pat's other neighbors, Kyle and Stacy. Much like the villain of another 90s Disney movie, Kyle becomes consumed with fascination and lust for Pat, to the point where his entire life collapses around him and he loses his mind. Which actually makes Kyle the most relatable character in this movie for me, because I've been researching Pat for weeks now, and I think I'm losing my mind too.
You know something? I love to stroke your pussy, cat.
I know. Muffy likes it, too.
So Pat and Chris get engaged, but their seemingly perfect relationship quickly becomes toxic because Pat is ungodly annoying and gets fired from every job they get.
I had 23 jobs last year. How many did you have?
Just the one.
Well, I'd hardly call you a big job expert.
Now it's time for Pat and Chris's engagement party, in which Pat gets stupid drunk and starts singing "Dude Looks Like a Lady."
Dude looks like a lady. Dude looks like a lady.
Why are they all still watching? At this point, they should leave.
Maybe they're hoping if Pat gets drunk enough, they'll figure it out.
After the party, Stacy accuses Kyle of being in love with Pat, which, like, yeah, Stacy, your gaydar is very broken.
Oh, what are you, insane, Stacy? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Are those random men on the wall?
The next day, Kyle finds Pat writing on their laptop, which is a very important piece of the plot for reasons you will see later. But first, here's a dick joke.
Whoa, Pat. Is that a banana in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
No, it's a banana.
Okay, Kyle's kind of a bisexual icon, though.
Yeah, he does not care what's under there. He just wants a part of that world.
Literally.
Then we get a scene of Pat and Chris driving a car with 2 steering wheels. This is never explained. And now footage of Pat singing is on a show called World's Creepiest People, which Pat seems to love for some reason.
Hey, we have a celebrity in the building! Me!
And also Kyle finally tries to make a move on Pat. And when that fails, he tries to climb in through their window.
All right, Kyle, listen, I have to go to bed. I'll talk to you later.
Shockingly faithful depiction of a chaser for a movie that apparently was created by people who didn't know that trans people were real.
So after Pat's appearance on World's Creepiest People, they're invited to play the tuba on stage with the band Ween. You know, Ween? They're the band that did the song from the SpongeBob movie. The one that goes, Ocean Man. And before you ask why is Ween in this movie, it's because there's a joke with their name and...
Hey, you guys, I'm playing with the Ween!
What? Oh, gross.
I'm playing with the Ween!
But it turns out Ween only wanted Pat to perform for one show, which makes Pat very sad. Aww. No. Don't feel bad for Pat. Pat is a literal man-child. Woman-child. Non-binary adult child.
You're not being supportive enough!
I think we should call it quits, Pat. I think it's over between us.
Good for you, Chris. You go on.
Pat wakes up the next day to find that their laptop is missing. And since Pat is an unapologetic racist, Pat's first instinct is to... Pat goes to the hood.
Hey, dudes! Any of you guys steal anything lately?
What the hell are you anyway?
Oh, I know what you're thinking. Am I a Crip or am I a Blood?
Oh my god!
So what the hell are you? A man or a woman?
Because Pat probably has undiagnosed ADD, they quickly forget about the laptop and head on over to the radio station to visit Kathy Griffin. And then in a shocking turn of events, Pat ends up stealing Kathy's job by encouraging people to kill themselves.
I feel like I want to jump off a building or slit my wrists or put a bullet in my head.
Well, have you considered drowning? I mean, they say it's like God giving you a big wet hug forever.
Chris returns to announce that they're leaving on a spiritual quest to Tibet and leaving Pat behind. Thank God! Meanwhile, Kyle finally gets into Pat's laptop after weeks of trying and discovers there's nothing in there about what's in Pat's pants, which causes Kyle to have a complete mental breakdown and fully transform into Pat.
We were meant for each other. We're like two complementary pieces in the crazy jigsaw puzzle of love. I just need to know how we fit together. By uncovering the secret of you, I uncover the secret of myself.
Kyle!
Now take off your clothes.
Then Kyle chases Pat all over town until they somehow end up at the catwalk above the Ween concert. And then this happens.
Don't get too close to my fantasy.
fuck?
And through that ordeal, Pat realizes that they love Chris after all. So they run all the way to the harbor to try and win Chris back before Chris leaves for Tibet.
Chris, get on that boat.
Get on the boat.
Run.
It could be the Titanic, and it would have been a better fitting for Chris.
And they all lived happily ever after.
If only they them pronouns existed in the 90s, this movie would be 10 minutes.
They probably would have found a way.
No, because they them pronouns exist now, and people still ask me what's in my pants all the time. So
The movie did not draw a one-to-one or like a full overlap between androgyny and disgustingness because we have Chris, who's not at all disgusting.
Yeah. Like, Pat's just an asshole, and this movie keeps asking us, no, but feel for them. I'm like, no, I want the worst for them and the best for Chris.
It's not just that Pat is both androgynous and an asshole, because the ways in which they're off-putting are conflated with the androgyny.
But I do think in some ways, like, they were trying to make fun of, like, the kind of person Chris is, too. Like, it felt very, like, you know, what people would call, like, woo-woo or whatever.
Yeah.
And, like, cringe.
It was
and I didn't
very
like that,
woo-woo.
You know?
But to be fair, a lot of trans people are very woo-woo.
I agree.
Like, at least that's an accurate negative depiction of...
I don't know. Okay, I don't know. My brain has turned to mush. I can't think about Pat anymore. In making this video, I had to watch the Pat sketches for research. Then I had to watch the movie. Then I had to watch the movie again. Then I had to write the script. Then record the script. Then edit the video. And I can't think about Pat for another second. Please like and subscribe and comment what other movies you want me to use to psychologically torture LGBT people. And if you're interested, I will have the full recording of the non-binary people watching It's Pat up on my Patreon. Link in the description below. I am evasive and I am going to go take a nice long hot shower and dissociate. Bye guys.